Hey everybody, Luke McElroy from Mess Performance Consulting here, joined today with a special guest, Rico Rogers from Box Altitude. So, might not see Nick in the hot seat today, you've got me. So what we're going to do today is basically talk about the benefits of altitude training as well as sleeping at altitude. And we might even talk a little bit about maybe the misconceptions of training at altitude for an hour or so every now and then, which we're not big on. But rather than having anything pre-planned, we thought we'd just have an honest conversation and have a bit of back and forth between somebody who knows exactly what he's talking about when it comes to altitude training and altitude in general. So welcome to the show, Rico. I might just start off with, give us a little bit of a background about Box Altitude, maybe your background as well, and how Box Altitude came to be, and then who you focus on.
Yeah, I suppose we started really when I did a training camp in the French Alps back in the day, and because I was riding full time, I didn't really believe in just chatting or watching movies. I'd research exactly what I was doing, and because I was at altitude, I thought I'd research it. And then when I went back from the training camp, I wanted to replicate what I was doing there. And I also got blood tests before and during and after, and I was kind of like, well, yeah, you need to be doing it to really get the most from it, you know.
And where does Box Altitude come into the picture? So why did you start it? And what gap in the market were you filling when you decided I need to do Box Altitude?
Well, I suppose I'd used a couple of other systems from other companies, and I just thought I could do it better. Yeah, that was pretty much where it started. And I think I actually called one of the other companies, and I was renting altitude tents at that point in time, and just said, oh, you know, I've got X amount of rentals, I'd like to buy some more. Nothing. They said something like, oh, actually the price has gone up and we can't give you a deal.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, well, I can probably research exactly how this works and why, and so I just started from there. Then made a couple of prototypes, learned to sew, which was pretty challenging. So yeah, no, it was out of sheer, I could do this better. I could make this more comfortable.
Yep. Yep. So what systems do you offer for? I'm going to be specific to begin with athletes. Well, an athlete wants to increase their hemoglobin mass, and we'll come into the benefits in a sec. But they want to get adaptation from being at altitude. What are the options for them?
So we have an entry level tent. Well, we have an entry level rental tent, which is I think $380 for 2 weeks to start off with, and then $100 after that. And then I think the single size altitude tent is $3,300, including GST and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And with that has a system that can go up to around 6,000 meters.
Yep.
Although we're not big fans of that at all. We take all of our prompts from AAS studies. We're not interested in reinventing what they've already qualified and quantified. So yes, we try and get people to spend most of their time at 3,000 meters and build up to it.
Cool. So when you say spend time at 3,000 meters, so your systems, correct me if I'm wrong, we've got a basic system which it just almost covers your pillow. Is that all of like the front end of the bed?
Yeah.
And that. Yeah. What does it do? So does it take oxygen out? Does it pump nitrogen in? How does it simulate altitude?
Yeah, it pumps a higher concentration of nitrogen than is in normal air. So I think we're breathing at the moment about 78% nitrogen.
Yep.
20.9% oxygen content.
And a tiny bit of CO2.
Argon and all sorts of other things. But yeah, it sort of increases the amount of nitrogen in the air. And these machines only do it down to a certain level, so it's completely safe.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't hurt yourself within reason, obviously, if you were to. You can't really hurt yourself.
Yeah, of course. And why would an athlete do this? So talk to me a little bit about the benefits of sleeping at altitude, and also maybe a protocol that you would use to see those benefits. Does it work as a once-off? Does it have to be a repeated cycle? What are the benefits and how do you achieve them?
So typically what we encourage people to do is to build up, and then the first 30 to 35 hours you kind of have the highest growth curve or the highest adaptation curve. And then after that you will find that it will keep going up, but it won't be quite as quickly, you know. So the first 3 to 4 nights is probably the best for adaptation.
Okay.
And then after that, you will keep going up. But I think the AIS say that you should spend 100 hours at 3,000 meters, whereas we're kind of more of our philosophy is more like we want to make this as sustainable as possible, so you don't just want to be in there for your block of 100 hours or however many they're on at the moment, but just to make it so you're able to do it constantly.
And the main benefit is the hemoglobin mass?
Yeah, hemoglobin mass, hematocrit.
Yep.
You know, it's just like stress and release, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, so for those playing home, you would have probably watched I think it was a podcast we did on altitude a while ago, and Rico's going to probably correct some of the way we work with our altitude episode is probably a little bit different. We always followed basic guidelines which have been around for who knows how long, and essentially what we recommend was, Nick, jump in if I'm wrong here, it was 3,000 metres for 10 hours a day for 3 weeks. Something like that. Maybe it was 2.5, no, it was 2,200.
22 to 24.
22 to, about 2,500 metres above sea level for 10 to 12 hours of continuous exposure, which is a long time, for 3 weeks. What protocol do you recommend? So you said before that sometimes it's not manageable just to go straight to really high altitude. What would you recommend as a protocol to maximise those hemoglobin and hematocrit benefits that you would get so that you can increase your oxygen carrying capacity?
Yeah, well, I suppose to manipulate it as quickly as possible, yeah, you would go to 3,000, but realistically, I think most people, a good starting point is probably 1,500 metres.
Mm-hmm.
So what you got to realise is that when you go into the hypoxic environment, your heart rate will increase anywhere from 5% to 15%.
Yep.
5% is manageable and you're probably going to be quite comfortable at night.
Mm-hmm.
15% is tossing and turning. The tent gets hot. It's just not a great scene.
Yep.
You know, whereas if you can sustain it, and I think that the AIS are like do 10 hours a night, let's say, but for the majority of athletes and business people, it's just not possible. So if you take that over a longer time span, yeah, it's going to take you longer to acclimatise to altitude. You are certainly going to get great benefits, but you're probably not going to get the very top end.
Yeah.
But then again, to make it so you can recover properly, make it sustainable, arguably that's probably going to be more beneficial as well.
So the theory behind starting at a lower altitude is so you get better sleep quality, you don't affect recovery as much as if you were going higher because you'd be at a higher heart rate tossing and turning. Speaking of recovery, or let's say, is there any negative side effects of sleeping at altitude for a prolonged period?
Well, I suppose your ferritin levels will drop slightly, but you'll probably be able to obviously monitor that and supplement with it. No, the health benefits are pretty well documented, that they're quite significant and sustained. The thing that I suppose the AIs haven't failed but haven't probably got the funding for is to do a long-term study on the effects of live high, train low. Mm-hmm. So coming out of the system and then living normally, but yeah, I think there's no point to not do it full time.
I remember speaking, I think it might actually be with Tyler, we were speaking about, so your normal hemoglobin saturation just in a normal environment is somewhere around 98% saturation. That'd be at somewhere in the normal range, correct me if I'm wrong?
This is for SPO2.
Yeah, just for normal. So like right now we would expect it to be 98, 99, we should be right up there.
Yeah.
Going altitude, you're going to drop that down to, depends, but probably high 80s would be about right, somewhere around that mark?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, everyone's really different.
Yep, okay.
Yeah, because we've obviously got quite a lot of people using the system. We do SPO2 monitoring throughout the nights as well. So, yeah, some people, they drop quite low. But like, it's all altitude dependent. One guy that we did a whole bedroom for, just turned it up full noise, you know?
Okay.
Just like rolling the dice, see what would happen.
Yep.
His results are really interesting, actually. This is like from not doing any, you know. His results are really interesting. His heart rate was quite low, actually.
Okay.
He didn't sleep too badly, which is really surprised with.
Before he passed out.
Yeah.
Probably unconscious, yeah.
His SPO2 was really quite low. It wasn't dangerous, but it was like, the first conversation I had with him was like, "Whoa, listen, whoa, whoa."
Under 85?
Oh, well under.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're talking like
Yep.
70s.
Yep.
Average.
Slow, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like I'm kind of freaking out myself. I'm like, listen, you got to curb this. This isn't sustainable. What you're doing is actually kind of detrimental to your health. And like, he did listen to us, and he kind of. But we sort of fight that sort of thing all the time as well.
How do you measure it? Are you just using the finger?
It's actually a wearable that you can get.
Okay.
Garmin produced this wearable called Vivo Smart 4.
Yep, heard that, yep.
And it's really great.
Yeah, cool.
It's such a perfect tool for us.
Yep.
You know?
And on that, so he gets, let's say normal people somewhere probably low, mid, high 80s, anyway, even using the 70-something example.
Let's put a figure of 88 on
Let's say 88. All right, so we want to get back up to 98 to be normally functioning once we get out of there. How long does it take to come back to normal levels? So from 88 back to normal 98, 99 saturation. I'm thinking of the effect of maybe morning training. You wake up, I've got to go do a session.
We're talking a minute.
A minute, yep.
Maybe 2 minutes.
Yep.
And then on top of that, because normally when you go, let's say, into a hypoxic environment or come out of one, what generally happens is it's all sort of indicators. From what I can understand, it's indicators that are based in your brain. So if your brain has got less SpO2 concentration, your heart rate will increase.
Yep, makes sense.
But there's a bit of a fluctuation at a time when things are sort of playing around, you know. So you go into the hypoxic environment, your SpO2 will drop, your heart rate will be like, oh, we don't know what's happening here, let's put the heart rate up. And then it'll sort of balance out and take a while to do that. Let's say it's 5 minutes.
Yep.
It's the same when you get up in the morning, you know. So your sort of heart rate varies around and that sort of thing.
Yep.
And then finds it takes no time at all. And then on top of that, it runs so high, like it'd be 99 for quite some time after.
Yep. Yep. So long as you're sleeping fine, there really shouldn't be any negative side effects. So it should all be positive from a hemoglobin hematocrit perspective. So.
Yeah. So it's like what they used to say with EPO, wasn't it? Like,
yep.
The negative side of EPO was that there was more wind going past your ears.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like,
yep.
Okay.
So on that, I'm not going to specifically talk about EPO, but so obviously altitude training and or sleeping at altitude is a legal, it's fine, like it's a legal performance enhancer. Do you want to touch on the differences between maybe altitude training and potentially using an illegal substance such as EPO? Why do you think, I want to say why I think, talking about hematocrit, what's the normal range of hematocrit? And what is the limitation for something like an instrument like box altitude? Where's the limit? How much can you expect to improve? Is it possible to go into illegal hematocrit levels by using a natural thing such as box altitude?
Yeah.
It is possible?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, like, Lance actually said it quite well, Armstrong. He said that he could have actually achieved the same sort of physiological adaptations using altitude 10. And I looked at it at the time and I cried, this is bullshit. It's not possible.
Yeah.
But actually when you do look through all of the data and that sort of thing, that's completely possible.
Do you know what his numbers were?
I'd have to look it up actually with the Cycling News article. I think I posted something saying, well, actually, he could have achieved that. And actually, we've seen this is just from memory.
Yeah.
I think we'd seen better numbers come across our desk.
Okay.
Like in the days previous.
Because it's about 52% hematocrit. At least it used to be. It might have changed, but my understanding was 52% is like the upper limit. You're above that, and you're doping or suspected of doping at least.
50% was always the sort of the cutoff. Like they used to have hematocrit testers in the cars, didn't they, in the team cars?
Yeah.
And so you take your blood before the race, and if you're over 50, you basically ride home to the hotel or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Know?
How does hydration affect it? So if you're dehydrated, is that going to increase your hematocrit?
Massively. So we have a protocol that we encourage people to follow with that as well, because hydration level is so key to performance.
Yeah, of course.
If you're dehydrated, you might as well just pack your bike up or your running shoes up.
Yep.
You know, and if you don't have any interest in drinking or being well hydrated, it's the first marker of a quality lifestyle, really. You know. So yeah, so we try and get people to drink sort of 800 mils before they leave the house in the morning.
Yep.
Slightly salted as well, because it binds to the blood particles more
Yep.
efficiently, and then another 800 mils by 2 p.m.
Yeah, nice. Yep.
Just because we want it to all absorb and you pee out anything you need to before you can go to bed. So I suppose what we've done in the last wee while has been researching sleep quality and how our systems can improve, just trying to follow those markers and prompts about how people or athletes can get the most from it. Because at the end of the day, if you're a really good sleeper, it's almost like a performance enhancer right there.
Yeah, of course.
And so if we can match up somewhere there, then, and that's why we've pushed so heavily into doing full bedroom conversions. And we've got a new full-size tent that is replicating all of that.
Yep.
So it's silent, goes up to sort of 3,000 meters. The best thing is the silence, really. It's really quite cool.
Yeah, as you said, it's sustainable. You can, if you wanted to, you could sleep in it all year round. Is that what you reckon? If you had a bedroom, would you sleep in it all year round, or would you cycle it on and off in terms of for the maximum benefit?
Oh yeah, I mean we cycle ours.
Yep.
Actually, at the moment, we've been testing that full-size one.
Yep.
And been renovating our house, and our new bedroom, I suppose it's quite big, and it's an altitude bedroom, and we'll run that periodically. We'll go up, and then pair back, and then go and do the same.
So just on that, so talk to me about the Airbnb sort of style business model you're going down for altitude rooms. Like, what's the idea? Is it so they come for a training camp and they stay for a week or 2 weeks, or how does that idea work?
So I think they're aiming at starting at sort of 4 nights as a minimum.
Yep.
Which is really great for us because those first.
You said that's when they get the most benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Which that's a really great start, but we're actually pushing the health and well-being aspect hard with that. Although we think that obviously cyclists and triathletes and runners are going to get great use out of it for their partners. I think they'll be quite surprised at how big a change or bigger jump in health and well-being you'll actually receive, because the benefits for normal people are probably a hell of a lot more than for cyclists and athletes. And
what benefit do you think you could expect from, say, only those 3 or 4 nights? How much of the benefit would you get initially? And out of the top ceiling of you're not going to change anymore, you've hit a plateau.
Yeah.
How much benefit are you going to get in that first 3 or 4 nights compared to 3 weeks down the track or 6 weeks down the track?
I think that actually after those first 30 hours, I think you have like a 4 or 3.8% boost in your anaerobic capacity or threshold.
Aerobic?
Anaerobic.
Anaerobic. Oh, it's the anaerobic threshold, yeah. So your lactate inflection point, threshold, yep, whatever you call it, yep.
Yeah, so it's like... Yeah, that first bump is quite worthwhile. But that's all sort of... Yeah, it's different sort of mechanism from actually changing your hemoglobin and hematocrit.
So that won't change your hemoglobin too much in the first couple of nights?
I think the first sort of... It takes a little bit longer than that. But what that is probably the DPG.
Yep.
So that's sort of the enzyme that tells your body how much oxygen to absorb, which gets triggered a lot by altitude training spaces, which is pretty handy. So
is that a mitochondrial thing?
Yeah, well, also
it probably would be, yeah.
Yeah, but also that's pretty handy. I mean, we absorb 8%, but we can go up to 30%, and so the long and short of it is, if you can increase that, then it is like, they used to have this drug, I think it was called EPO for a day, and it would just bump that up, like way up.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it just raises all those levels up. Yeah, so.
And how long would you expect those benefits to last for?
Probably the 30 hours is probably a shorter half-life, I would have thought. I'm just sort of, I haven't studies about this.
That's
actually.
fine, ballpark's good.
But there's I'll send you the link as well. There's a study and it said that the effects of altitude training last about 120 days as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's worthwhile, and that's probably why you could afford to cycle it, because there's no, if you're going to have those benefits for such a long time, you can. I'm sure. I imagine there's no negatives to keeping it on all the time, but if you, well, I'm not
Power
knowing
bill.
it. Yeah, power bill. Yeah, that's probably fair.
But I think, but even if you were to, let's say, do a maintenance period of 8 hours a week, and just touch that up, there's quite a bit of AIS data that says that that'll actually continue to spike your EPO production as well.
Yeah.
Which is essentially, because I suppose with our side of it, we sort of see these teams or these athletes are away more often than they're not. So it's getting that maintenance period in there as well, so that when they do go and do a decent block at home, they'll really, really go.
Yeah, cool. And maybe just touching quickly on, you mentioned how, having an altitude bedroom is beneficial for sustainability, and also you can get your partner involved or whoever it is, and they experience benefits as well. Is there anything nutritionally we need to take into account in terms of, if we're creating more hemoglobin, in theory we would need more protein and iron? Is that something that we need to consider?
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
We steer clear of telling people that they should take iron supplements, but I'm certainly a big fan of getting it tested and making sure that you have got enough of it. Anyone that really has a high hemoglobin and hematocrit has a high ferritin or iron level. Like, there's no...
Yeah.
It goes hand in hand.
Yeah, of course. That's what creates it.
Yeah, and so I used to take iron B. I used to take a handful of things. And then I'd take vitamin C as well, just because it helped absorption.
Yeah.
And I'd have coffee, because why wouldn't you?
Because everyone does.
But it helps all of that stuff absorb and that sort of thing. So, it'd be good to have a health professional that you could actually refer to and be like, your doctor's probably got the knowledge, but a lot of them are not very good, I've found. Not very knowledgeable.
It's a very specific area, isn't it? Yeah.
The guys at the VIS are knowledgeable,
Okay.
actually. Yeah, like, they're really quite clever. They read all the studies and... Yeah.
Which department specifically?
Actually, I'm meeting with one of the guys tomorrow, Nick Owen, and then
I think
Brennan.
I did meet him briefly.
Yeah, they're just clever. They're into it. Their wealth of knowledge is really, it's amazing to have such a good centre like that. So local in some ways. Yeah,
for sure. Awesome. And we mentioned that we can increase our hematocrit, our hemoglobin concentration. Upper limit is about 6-ish, 6.5%, 7%. Does that sound about right?
What's that for?
For hemoglobin mass?
Yeah, 6.7 at 19 nights at 3,000 metres.
Yep.
Which is about 14% oxygen content.
And what can we expect in terms of a performance benefit from that?
Yeah, so I forwarded to that study. I think the range was, just from memory, 4.64 up to 7.4, just from memory. So it's like, your VO2 max follows your hemoglobin mass by that calculation.
Yeah, okay. So because I think you mentioned, so if we had let's say we had a 6.5, just for example, 6.5% increase in our hemoglobin mass. Was it 0.8? You times that by 0.8 to get a VO2 range, which then is going to be different for performance. Like there's a lot of calculations, but
So if you were to, let's say you do a really rough calculation, it's about 5.2%.
Yeah, exactly. So do 6.5 times 0.8 is say 5% increase in VO2, which is pretty, as it's for doing nothing, it's just for sleeping in a tent essentially. That's a pretty big increase in your oxygen consumption, and then in theory that would follow on to performance, so long as your economy and hydration, all the other factors of performance stay consistent. I think I read somewhere 3% performance improvement, and that probably sounds about right. If you've got about a 5-ish% VO2, it's not going to be all related to performance, but probably somewhere ballpark figure, 3 or 4% for doing nothing is probably about right.
Yeah, there's so many different takeouts from it.
Of course.
So, because a lot of these studies seem to refer to pure time, whereas let's say it's a dead flat road, it's straight, there's no undulations, because you obviously reduce your weight as well. Yeah. Which is really great. And so for most athletes, it's pretty positive. You lose a little bit of weight as well.
You increase your metabolism, wouldn't you? You have to.
Yeah.
Heart rate's up and all the rest. Body's working harder.
Yeah. And so for everyday people, and this is the one that's most challenging for us, is because the athletes are always sold in it. They're always like,
Yeah, of course.
it's going to get me going places further faster.
Yeah.
Whereas the partners are more like, oh, I can't be bothered sleeping at altitude, and it's not really. But whereas, there's so many benefits for them. Literally losing weight while you sleep.
Yeah.
Increasing the amount of things you can do during the day. Like, it's just economy, heart rate efficiency, less heart disease. I'll send you the pamphlet we've got for everyday people.
Yeah. And we'll link out all these studies below as well, assuming you're happy with that. We'll link them all below so people who are interested in this stuff can have a further look into it as well. Just quickly, you might not know the exact numbers, but the increase in metabolism while sleeping at altitude, how much are we talking? Are we talking like 5%? Are we talking 30%?
I haven't read a study with it actually.
Yeah, I mean, it would happen. It makes sense. Your heart rate's high, your body's working harder.
Yeah, but then also on, let's say, post-altitude,
Yep.
so these people that are going to go for this wellness retreat in Bright.
Yep.
Post it, because people normally, their walking rate depends on their respiration rate.
Yep.
More or less, Obviously you're not going to really stride it out, but because you're walking quicker, because your respiration rate is less, because your body's more efficient, then you're also burning more calories as well post altitude training or altitude sleeping. So it's like, it's pretty like, it's like a cyclist. If you're going to have race wheels, you're going to wear them or use them.
Yeah.
It's like that with an altitude system.
Yeah.
If you have it, you're definitely going to use it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I think the things that have been a limiting factor in the past is the uncomfortability of it.
Yeah.
And addressing that is probably the most important thing.
Yeah.
And then get metrics around it. I think all of the metrics are there if you want to read them. But people don't want to read these days. They want glossy pictures that they can take out snapshots from, and it's like.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think to me it's a no-brainer. I think a lot of our audience who are very numbers orientated, they love the data, would really get around something like a box altitude system. So just to summarise briefly what we've spoken about today, the main benefits of altitude come from sleeping in there for prolonged periods, but adapting bit by bit. It's not much benefit by going out and doing a 1 hour session because you're not exposed for long enough at a time to see those big benefits. There's many options, and from a different variety of prices, from just a basic essentially cover your pillow to creating a full bedroom.
Yeah.
And not only is there performance benefit, but guaranteed performance benefits in this. Looking at 6.5% hemoglobin, 5% VO2. Your partners will benefit from losing weight and all the rest as well. So, increasing metabolism, which may lead to weight loss and all the rest. So really, there's no downside to it in my view. You're going to see some pretty significant benefits. If anybody is interested in looking into your systems, where can they go to find out more information? Just
our website, Box Altitude. But then again, I'm an advocate for all of altitude systems, not just ours.
Yeah, the benefits of the benefits. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously I want people to purchase, but just to actually get the conversation going about why you would and how, and so any company's system would be good to try and give it a go. And then if they need more information, even about using other companies' systems, I'm quite happy to hand that out as well. Yeah, perfect. We'll post all Rico's details below if you want to reach out, by all means. Anything to add, gentlemen? Back good. Anything we haven't covered that you think's worthwhile touching on? No, I think that's probably it. Yeah. Awesome. We'll have a bit more of a chat offline. We'll keep it where it is. It's probably about the 30-minute mark. So. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you found that useful, and we'll speak to you again in the next episode.